In the vast and often unforgiving history of the Ottoman Empire, few stories are as extraordinary, as unsettling, and as deeply human as that of Mehmed IV, a boy who became a ruler before he even understood the weight of a crown. He would later be known as the Hunter, a man more comfortable in forests than in palaces, more alive among wild animals than within the suffocating walls of power. But before he became a legend, before he escaped into nature, he was just a frightened child placed on the throne of one of the most powerful empires in the world. Mehmed was born on January 2nd, 1642, in Istanbul, the heart of the Ottoman Empire, a city where continents met and where power could shift overnight. He was the son of Sultan Ibrahim, a ruler known as much for his instability as for his authority. His mother, Turhan Sultan, was not yet the powerful figure she would later become. At the time, she was simply another woman in the imperial harem, a place filled with ambition, fear, and silent rivalries. The palace Mehmed was born into was not a place of safety. It was a place of whispers, secrets, and constant danger. His father, Ibrahim, had grown increasingly unpredictable. Some called him unstable, others called him mad. Decisions were erratic, trust was rare. And in the Ottoman court, instability at the top meant danger for everyone below. Mehmed's earliest years were not filled with innocence, but with tension, fear, and uncertainty, like a storm quietly building around him. By 1648, the empire had reached a breaking point. Ibrahim's behavior had alienated the military, the bureaucrats, and even members of his own court. The powerful Janissaries, once loyal defenders of the throne, began to see him as a threat rather than a leader. A decision was made, one that would change the course of history. Ibrahim was deposed. Shortly after, he was executed. And just like that, a 6-year-old boy found himself standing in the shadow of a throne shaped by fear. Mehmed IV was crowned Sultan of the Ottoman Empire at the age of 6. He did not choose power. Power chose him. At an age when most children are learning to read and write, Mehmed was expected to rule an empire that stretched across 3 continents. But of course, he did not rule, not truly. The real power behind the throne became his mother, Turhan Sultan. She rose from the shadows of the harem to become one of the most influential women in Ottoman history. As Valide Sultan, she governed the empire in her son's name, but she was not alone. The court was filled with competing factions, viziers, generals, and palace elites, each trying to shape the future of the empire and control the young sultan. For Mehmed, childhood was replaced by observation. He watched, he listened. He learned that trust could be dangerous and that survival often depended on silence. By the mid-1650s, the empire was struggling. Military failures, internal rebellions, and political chaos threatened to tear it apart. Then came a turning point. A man named Mehmed Pasha of the Köprülü family was appointed Grand Vizier in 1656, but he accepted the role under one condition: absolute authority. It was a bold demand, and a desperate empire agreed. Under Köprülü Mehmed Pasha, and later his son Fazıl Ahmed Pasha, the empire began to stabilize. Reforms were implemented, corruption was reduced, military strength was restored. For the first time in years, the empire was no longer collapsing. And Mehmed stepped back even further. Unlike many rulers who were obsessed with power, Mehmed developed a very different passion. He loved hunting, not as a simple sport, but as a form of escape. The forests, the silence, the rhythm of nature, these became his refuge, away from palace politics, away from endless intrigue. away from the suffocating expectations of being Sultan. This is how he earned his name, Mehmed the Hunter. While his viziers governed, Mehmed spent long periods outside the capital, immersed in nature. To some, this was seen as weakness. To others, it was a quiet form of survival. Despite his distance from politics, Mehmed fulfilled his role in continuing the Ottoman dynasty. He had several consorts, as was customary for Ottoman rulers. Among them was Rabia Gülnush Sultan, who would later become one of the most powerful women in the empire. From these unions, Mehmed had multiple children, but two sons would shape the future of the Ottoman throne: Mustafa II and Ahmed III. Both would eventually become sultans, carrying forward the legacy of a father who had never fully embraced the power he inherited. Even though Mehmed distanced himself from governance, his reign was marked by major military campaigns. The most significant and most devastating of these was the Siege of Vienna in 1683. Led by Grand Vizier Kara Mustafa Pasha, the Ottoman army marched deep into Central Europe with the ambition of capturing Vienna. A victory there could have changed the course of history, but instead it became a turning point of defeat. The siege failed, and not just failed, it triggered a chain reaction. European powers united against the Ottomans, battles were lost, territories slipped away, and for the first time in generations the empire was no longer expanding, it was retreating. After the disaster of Vienna, confidence in leadership collapsed. Military defeats continued, the empire weakened, and Mehmed IV, who had long distanced himself from direct rule, became an easy target for blame. In 1687, after nearly 4 decades on the throne, he was deposed. He was replaced by his brother, Suleiman II. The child who became Sultan at 6 left the throne not with power, but with silence. After his deposition, Mehmed lived in relative isolation. No longer a ruler, no longer at the center of power, just a man who had once stood at the peak of an empire without ever truly controlling it. He died in 1693. Mehmed IV's story is not one of conquest or dominance. It is a story of contradiction. A ruler who did not seek power, a king who preferred forests over palaces, a child who became sultan before he could understand what it meant. He ruled an empire, but he never escaped the throne that chose him.